Okay, at this time, we will call this meeting to order. May I please have a roll call, please?
Trustee DeBoer?
Here.
Truttschel?
Here.
Pfeiffer?
Here.
President Vanderstill?
Here.
Trustee Walschlager?
Here.
Connor?
Here.
Alquist?
Here. If you'd all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, remove your caps, led by Trustee Truttschel. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, anybody that would like to speak in public comment can step towards the podium where the microphone is. Anybody on Zoom that wants to speak? They don't want to speak. Anybody in the room want to speak? Public comments? Okay. First item on our agenda is a presentation by Arrowhead staff regarding the referendum questions on November's ballot. Sir?
Thank you very much. I'm Conrad Farner. I'm the superintendent for the Arrowhead Union High School District. We really appreciate this opportunity. We were told we have to keep it down to about 15 minutes, so we are going to fly through this as fast as possible. This is really just a really quick overview. The presentation normally takes about an hour, but we did want to get in front of people. Our biggest ask would that be if you know of anybody that would like to get more information, to please have them reach out to us. We will visit homes, neighborhoods, parks, you name it, we will present. No crowd is too small or too large, and we actually had one presentation where 3 of us presented to 2 people. So that is no size too small.
You'll be here Wednesday.
We'll also be here Wednesday evening, yep.
So that's in the village board, here in the village board room?
5 to 8 p.m. 5 o'clock is a kind of open house. 6 p.m. presentation, I think is what I saw on social media today.
Okay.
So we're going to fly, assuming there won't be questions. Certainly feel free to ask, but if you save them to the end, that might be the best, because oftentimes the questions get answered as we go through the slide deck. And I'll turn it over to my colleagues, Adam Kurth, the principal, and Jeff Gross, our director of business services, for some of their slides. Let's do it. So one of the biggest questions that people always ask is, why are we having this question put before, or the 2 questions put before us? And the basic bottom line is we have aging facilities and previous failed referenda. So when you look at our South Campus, it was built in 1955, North in 1969, and we have not made any significant investments in over 25 years. Our buildings are old. When you consider 2,000 kids running through these things day and night for that many years, that many hours a day, it's a lot of wear and tear. The school funding system is important that people understand that going to referenda is why or how you actually get your funding. This is how it works. It's not because anybody did anything wrong at the school district. If that was the case, 80% of the school districts would be doing something wrong. The way we are funded, you have to go to your community and ask for more money, because they stopped funding us close to inflation many years ago, and we'll get to that a little bit later. And the identity of the school, the identity of the system, the identity of the community is all going to be determined by this vote. Take it away, Al.
So part of what Superintendent Farner referenced was our deteriorating facilities, and that includes our infrastructure areas, which this is a picture of our pavement, our drives up, and we don't have the funds right now. They're allocated toward the classroom learning, so we constantly every summer have to kind of plug leaks, as you're seeing in this image. This is the picture that's received the most attention. This is our south gym in the 70-year-old building. This is what it looks like across the seal for the whole ceiling. This is the picture where we actually had mushrooms growing in that gap last year, and so that's received a lot of conversation. Too expensive to repair. We talk about the locker rooms at Arrowhead often. These are the true locker rooms that aren't shown on Google Images. These are the locker rooms that most of our students and athletes use more frequently than our other 2 locker rooms. This is what the other 4 locker rooms look like that we have in our school right now. And this is under the pool. So you can see the deterioration of a 50, 60-year-old pool. We're constantly having to fix the pool. It is part of the identity. Most people don't know that our swim team is actually the most successful and most accomplished team at Arrowhead. And we are in a situation where our board has made a statement, because of the funds that we've had to put in, that over $100,000 expense and the pool will shut down. And these are our HVAC units. Jeff can speak better to this, but we've had to replace 5 just this year. They're at end of life. Usually you replace these proactively, and we're having to react to these because of funding. And then the 4 things that often get talked about: our football stadium, scoreboard, hockey rink, and 2 locker rooms are all privately funded. The scoreboard actually makes us money. The hockey rink has an endowment that no expenses, and an agreement that no expenses come to the school. So all of the nice pieces that people often refer to are privately funded. So all the challenges that we see with a two-building campus, safety and security is our first. The travel between two campuses, our students are exposed constantly without oversight, without anybody able to monitor interactions with unwanted visitors between the two buildings. And we also have 40 access points to our two buildings. That's unheard of nowadays in current safety measures. Communication, anytime we have challenges or emergencies in the two buildings, because there's two buildings, it's very difficult to communicate between the two to know what's going on in each. That makes safety a heavy challenge. And incredible inefficiencies. When we talk about financial savings, we have two of everything, including main offices, cafeterias, libraries. We duplicate tech ed equipment, music equipment, art equipment. And we've now run the numbers. That was a pencil paper number, $750,000. We're up to about $1 million in savings just by going to one building, because you're not paying two greeters, two front offices. You're not having two libraries with 4 librarians, those kind of things. And those are also difficult positions to staff. So this isn't a thing about trying to cut staff. We have 4 openings still in our support staff. So it's not a matter of getting rid of bodies. We don't have bodies to actually fill those. Scheduling and learning, we have to have an 8-minute passing time right now because of the two buildings to allow our students to travel back and forth. This has changed from 50 years ago when the building was built, where 9th graders typically took 9th grade classes. We want our students to extend themselves, so our students travel between buildings to take upper level classes. Behavior modeling is a big piece. We believe our upperclassmen, we have really great students at Arrowhead, and our upperclassmen would serve as great models to our 9th and 10th graders, which is a tough building right now because it's a transition building where they don't see upperclassmen modeling behavior. They continue the middle school behaviors, and that's what we work with. And then the inconsistency is a big piece where if you've been in a 9-12 building, you understand the impact of relationships. Having a counselor that can be with you for 4 years instead of 2. Having teachers as a freshman year that you still see in the hallways your senior year. Those sort of pieces have a direct impact on the culture of a school and the comfort and ability to succeed for the students.
So why are we here? We'll go to the next slide. I'm going to talk a little bit about the school funding system. Wisconsin school funding does require a referenda, just like Conrad mentioned. In 1993, Wisconsin's legislature instituted revenue limits, limit on the amount of state aid and property tax, which is our main sources of revenue that each school is entitled to each year. It's referred to as the revenue limit or the revenue cap, if you've heard that. The initial limit was an arbitrary number set at an amount that each school district was spending the year prior. So in 1992-93, whatever they were spending per student, that's where their limit was set. And so that varied across the state widely. And Arrowhead was a conservative district, a low spending district at the time, and we've been low spending ever since because the revenue limit ties us to that low number. Where some of our Waukesha County neighbors are much higher, you'll see that in the next slide. The revenue limit was to be a temporary fix to the property tax issue with property taxes skyrocketing, but it became permanent 2 years after that, after 1993. We've had it for 30 years now. The amount of school funding is limited and capped by this law since then. Here's a look at Waukesha County school districts, the ones we compete with for talent, for families. You can see Kettle Moraine just passed a large referendum, over $7 million recurring every year, and it brought them up to almost $13,000 per student. We get $11,000 per student. You'll see the bottom 4, Arrowhead, Muskego, Waukesha, and Mukwonago. I left them in that order because that's where we were the year prior, before everyone who was below $11,000 was lifted to the $11,000. We were at $10,550 prior to this. So if you take the 11 grand times 2,000 kids, that's $22 million to operate with each year. On those same 2,000 kids, Kettle Moraine gets $25 million to operate with each year, which is a difference of almost $3.5 million or $17 million over a 5-year period. You can do a lot of work with $17 million over 5 years. Multiply that by 10 years and you have $34 million. We could do a lot of renovation and things that we haven't been able to do if we had those kind of dollars. The Elmbrooks, the New Berlins, they've been up there for years. Menominee Falls, they've all been high on that list, and we've been competing at about $10,000 per student up until this last year. So these are last year's numbers. This year's number will be $11,325 per student. Now you compare us to the other 9 union high school districts. There's only 10 of them in the state. Arrowhead happens to be one of those. Nicolay is another one. Nicolay gets $16,000 per student. You multiply their $16,000 per student times 2,000 students that we have, and it's a $10 million annual difference. 5 years, that's a $50 million difference. Now, they've passed some referenda to get their number up that high, but their number was high to start with back in 1993 also. You look, we're still at the bottom of all those union high schools, even below Hartford, just close to us, and Union Grove and Wilmot, some of those small rural areas. So the differences are big, and it all starts with 93. What were you spending in the 92-93 school year? That was your base amount, and then everyone lifted the same amount with it. So there was never new level setting up until this past year when they brought some of us bottom ones up to the $11,000 per student. So this is a thing that people don't realize. When the legislators tell you they're putting more money into the state aid formula, okay, that's wonderful. We love that because it lowers property tax, but it doesn't give schools any more to operate with. It's the revenue limit that determines how much you have to operate with. Very different than state aid. Revenue limit controls state aid and property tax, so it's those two funding sources that are divided, or that make up the revenue limit. Here's a look at, the blue line is showing what we've actually been indexed for adjustments to the revenue limit over the years, since 2008-9 all the way to this year. The gray line is inflation. So when revenue limits were put into place in 1993, they were intended to be tied to inflation, and they were all the way until 2008. There wasn't any money that the state to afford the state aid portion, which if they lifted revenue limits, because they're made up of state aid and property tax, if they lifted the revenue limit and didn't pay the aid, property taxes would have increased. So they didn't have the money to pay the aid, they left the revenue limit down. They didn't give us the $280 per student increase we were expecting that year. Instead, we got $200 for that year and the year following. And then after that, we had Act 10, and they took away 5.5%, which was about $600 to Arrowhead per student. And you can see that's what the drop is, and then ever since that, it has not been lifting with inflation, and now the gap is almost $3,400 per student between inflation and what we actually have to work with. That's why we're cutting all the time in the schools and trying to, I mean, you really just have to match your expenditures with your revenues. You know, it's not like a private entity where you can try to balance the two. We don't have control over the revenue side. The legislators have talked, we've talked to legislators several times, and the answer is, if you need more funds, ask your taxpayers. You know, let them vote on it, and it's local control. So that's what we're out here trying to educate on how the school funding system works. Districts are doing exactly that. There's 121 in November of 24 coming up for referendums, and then over 50% of Wisconsin schools have been asking, or are asking, over the last 2 years. Connor, you want to take this one?
So this one's a hard chart to see at this distance, but it is a very pivotal one for our presentation. The yellow highlights are Arrowhead area school districts. You can see Arrowhead's in bold there on the bottom right-hand corner. We've had one referendum passed since 2000. The numbers, the amounts of these referendums is not very valuable because they have not been indexed for inflation. So if those numbers were actually adjusted by inflation, the numbers would be crazy higher because many of the referendums that were passed on this could have been passed 20 years ago. The really important thing about this chart, it proves that this is not an Arrowhead issue. 147 referendums have passed just in southeast Wisconsin by all of these districts because you have to go to referendum to get the funding you need to operate your school. The really important number is the column that says numbered passed. That's the second column on each of the two sides. When you look at how many districts have passed multiple referendums, it speaks to, again, that is how the funding formula works. Arrowhead High School, one referendum only. And that's expiring this year. That was a 5-year referendum for $1.7 million a year for 5 years. The two blue arrows are critical arrows that everyone needs to understand. Sussex, Hamilton, and Kettle Moraine have recurring referendums for $7 million in Kettle Moraine's case, $7.6 million for Sussex Hamilton's. Those are dollars they're going to get every year forever that we don't have. Those two communities told their school district, you can have $7 million of our 7.6 in Sussex, so that you don't have to come back to referendum anymore and you can fund your operations. We are competing with those districts. We are competing for families. We are competing for staff. We will not be able to compete. They will be able to offer salaries and benefits that we can't come close to, because you saw how bad it was just compared to the other districts on the revenue limit side. This is extra money that these districts are getting so that they can fund their operations. So also, if you look at all those red arrows, those are all districts that we compete with. Look at how many referendums those communities have passed. You know, it doesn't take long when you just see Oconomowoc 4, Muskego 5, Pewaukee 5, Hamilton 6. I mean, these are neighboring districts. Kettle Moraine 4. They are all around us. They're all improving their facilities. They all have more funds to work with than Arrowhead has. Next slide. Switch back to you.
Just a quick look at our mill rate over the historical. You can see, since we haven't passed any referenda in a number of years, our tax rate was as high as $3.66 back in 2012. We're half that now at $1.81. Some of that is lift in property growth, but the majority of that is when your revenues stay the same year over year, and you have to manage your expenses to just stay at that number, the tax rate is naturally going to go down. So I guess what we're showing here is we've got room for something. There's been years of savings here in our tax rate, and it's really because we just haven't we haven't passed one. We haven't gotten the investment from the community to put back into the schools. Here's how do we compare against Waukesha County. And we're Arrowhead as a high school district at $1.81, but if you take the average of those kindergarten through 8th grade schools, the North Lakes, Swallows, Mertens, you average all those together and you add it to the $1.81, we're at $5.18. We have a pretty good tax value out here for schools in the Arrowhead district when you compare it to the rest of Waukesha County.
Can we go back to that one real quick? So just a couple important keys on this one. Those arrows again are showing you districts that already recently passed referendum, or they have a referendum on the ballot in November, as in Mukwonago's case. So the numbers here are not the actual numbers. They're going to go higher. And so if Mukwonago passes theirs also, all those districts are going to be even higher than those numbers. If Arrowhead's referendum, if our passes in November, we would still be like third or fourth from the top. We would not even get to that highest level of the other tax rate districts. So just an important thing when it comes to the idea that there's capacity in the Arrowhead community. Next slide, please. So continuing with why we're here, we are competing with these other districts. So the question is going to be, student enrollment is critical to our funding and our staff and the programs that we can offer. We need to be increasing our enrollment. Right now, we are not attracting families to Arrowhead. They are coming, they're doing tours, and they're going somewhere else. Because they look at our facilities and they look at all these other neighboring districts and they go, why would I send my kid here? So our enrollment's going down right now, and that is not good because the lifeblood of the school district depends on enrollment. Our funding depends on that enrollment, as poor as the funding is. So here are some examples of the school districts around us. You can see our cafeteria on the left side of the picture, Cedarburg's on the right. The Cedarburg facility allows for so many more things that can be done. You can even rent that space out. You can actually be a revenue generator. That's the sort of thing that attracts families and students compared to what we have. And ours is also used in the evenings as a workout area because we don't have enough space for the athletes, so they actually clear all those tables out and the kids are running and working out in the halls. Our theater doesn't even hold one class. I think the seating is 440 students. We always have 500 students in a class. We can't even have an all-class meeting. Verona Theater on the other side is about 1,000. That's the number that we're looking for in our referendum. At least we could get 2 classes in there at one time. Cedarburg on the right, Arrowhead on the left. They have done things with their hallways with the natural light, so they actually have learning going on in the halls. The students there are working on those boards. They're doing problems on a regular basis. The teacher can see them from the classroom because it's all windows. You can see a little bit of the glass there. Just a phenomenally different learning environment compared to our students that are just within the usual 4 walls. Similar kind of thing, Cedarburg versus Arrowhead, light versus no light. A couple more examples of Cedarburg learning spaces that we don't have anything close to this at Arrowhead. Our pool, again, a huge asset for our community. Our swimmers are unbelievable. Most of the kids in the area take swimming lessons there. Seniors use the pool in the evenings. It's just not gonna last very long. It's on its last legs and it's just a small, cramped, we can't even do diving. Our divers have to go to another school to do diving. Here's an example of what pools are looking like in the modern era. Our hallway on the left, Franklin hallway on the right. Our hall or our classroom learning space on the left, Monona Grove on the right. Our gyms on the left side, Oconomowoc, Germantown, and Elkhorn facilities on the right. Our gym's small. We have 2,000 students. Our gym bleachers only go up like 12 levels, not what you'd expect for a district of our size. That lower wrestling room up in the corner smells. Floor is coming up. It's not pretty, not fun to be in. Go ahead, that's good. Adam, why don't you take the secure entrance?
Yeah, this is our biggest concern is this, the picture on the left is our safe and secure entrance, which is, we buzz guests in and they go to that red desk and we hope that they're a good person. And you can see the access that they have to our entire building as soon as they're buzzed in, and they don't actually check in or scan in until they're at that red desk. What you're seeing on the right is what modern safety and security looks like. It's actually a 3-tiered door system. They check into the first vestibule where line of sight allows somebody to see and make sure that they're a visitor that we're expecting or that's not going to do harm. Then they're brought into the second vestibule where they're checked in, signed in, and then they're accessed into the building. This is just the one stage of the safety and security. We visited Verona High School last week where they have a button that can literally lock down. It locks down 90 sections in their building. So individual sections of their building are locked down so that it minimizes any harm that could be done within a building in a split second. We don't have the ability to lock down any hallway in our building. Again, schools we compete with on the left, you're seeing the schools that have passed referendums recently. On the right, you're seeing Oconomowoc's new facility that they're offering to their students with unique and dynamic learning facilities. Again, Kettle Moraines cafeteria, and that's their study hall as well, which is ours. Cafeteria is our study hall as well, just a different atmosphere and a different draw for families and students. And this is the Verona High School, which we visited, which is appropriately sized for us. But the big point here that we wanted to point out is they passed theirs in 2018 for $185 million. Since then, it's been a 40% construction increase due to inflation and inflationary construction costs. So their building would be over $250 million today for actually a smaller student body than ours. So we're being as efficient as we can with our ask. But they were able to accomplish all that with the same amount that our referendum is asking.
So before going to a referendum, you always survey the community. It's real important that our clientele and our constituency would be able to know what we're looking for. Our community survey results were pretty amazing. We had 3 different asks that went out to the community with vastly different numbers, and what's unheard of in the world of surveying school districts is communities come back with fairly equal support for all the options. This is unheard of. Normally the highest one gets the least support, cheapest one gets the most support. All of ours were less than 1% difference, so statistically not significant. Our community basically said all 3 of these options we have the same level of support. So the board decided to go out for the $261.2 million ask for an all-new facility. The reasoning behind that is it was clear from our parents that that's what the parents wanted, and that there will also never be a more affordable time to do it. The costs are only going to go up. If you're going to do it right. If we keep investing in 2 old, deteriorating buildings, that is not a good use of taxpayer dollars. The next slide will show you additional support from the survey results. Community support for a pool was extremely strong. For the new Performing Arts Center, also very strong. And what was also clear from the community is they did not want us to be putting millions of dollars into these 2 old buildings anymore. That had the lowest support of any question. So the questions themselves coming out in November. Question number 1 is the operational. We just bumped it up slightly to $1.9 million for 4 years. Again, remember, Sussex, Kettle Moraine, $7 million forever. We're asking for 1.9 for just 4 years. And then the second one is the all-new facility at 261.2. You can see the mill rate impact on the slide. Concept layout, just very broad. This is not anything like what it'll ultimately look like. Probably easier to go to the next slide right away because it's hard to see. But the orange, reddish C shape, that would be where a new building would most likely go somewhere in that area. It could also curve around to the north a little bit. The key is we aren't going to touch north or south during any construction. If we were fortunate enough to get this passed, learning will be able to continue throughout the entire time period so that there's no interruptions because it's going to be a separate facility. Once that facility is finished, then we look at tearing down the old buildings. So that's a real advantage to not adding on or renovating a building because that will definitely be disruptive to learning throughout the entire process. Let me keep going. Yeah, sure. So obviously advantages, improved security we touched on already, better learning opportunities, very little disruption to learning, and far greater efficiencies. A key point that we've been getting some great economic studies on the value, for those people who only look at this as a tax increase because maybe you don't have students in the system, it actually shouldn't really be looked at as just a tax increase, it should be looked at as an investment. Multiple studies that we're going to show you right now have demonstrated that when you do invest in a new school like this, property values will increase significantly. In fact, they'll increase so much it'll more than be what you actually put into it as a result of passing the referendum. So this study showed 9% increase in property value. The next one showed about a 7% after 9 years. Next one showed 9.6%. I think there's one more, 7%. And that was after 3 years. And I think there was even one more, but we cut it out for the sake of time. So that's our presentation. Sorry, I probably went a little bit over. It's hard to get this down. Any questions, happy to answer. Otherwise, you can please tell people to contact us. Almost all this information is on our website. District website's got a ton of referendum info, ton of facilities info, so that any questions anybody might ever have, they can go to the website and try to get the answer. But Adam, Jeff, and I are also happy to answer questions at any time. And we'll be here Wednesday for people to come and see this more expanded version.
I just wanted to touch on, and I appreciate you taking the time to show us all this. You know, upcoming in November, Arrowhead's gonna be hosting 2 colleges, 1 alumni, who's also potentially going to be carrying home a gold medal 4 years from now. And Arrowhead will at least be on an NCAA major stage. It was for a long time while Keegan O'Toole was wrestling. And during that time, there was tiles that were falling off the stairs for over 4 years. This was under a completely different school board, by the way. We worked very hard to change that, but this was a different school board at that time. The new school board is not the old school board. But point being, there's a lot of people that are coming to Arrowhead for the wrestling program now because of what was there, because of what they know of it. But less and less, I do think people are going to be coming because they won't be coming for the wrestling facilities, possibly the coaching.
Exactly.
I know that in the wrestling room, they had to get parents and the wrestling team to just put up the padding around the outside room. Gano's Concrete had to come in and put in the concrete. The parents had to go in and actually do anything to make it happen because there just was no money for anything to happen there. I know that the heaters are just on absolute collapse. I'm not sure. I picture Arrowhead like 2 inches thick of Band-Aids. Surgery should have been done 116 Band-Aids ago, and it just kept on being Band-Aids that led to gauze pads that led to just major whatever was going on. But there's going to be no fixing what's left there anymore. And
Great analogy.
you know, for the people, for the community, I think it does make a big difference because I think the community has to decide, do you want something that is just your, and when I say standard, I'm talking cookie cutter, yep, you can put a heater with bricks and chairs and a teacher standing in front of the room. Do you want that, or do you want something that when people come it says, this is the community Lake Country, or do you want people driving on their way home talking about how good it is, or driving home saying, wow, I thought that area used to be really nice, but what's going on out there? And I think that it's a reflection of all of us. So I do personally hope it passes, and I'll be pushing for its passage, even though my kids are not going to be able to enjoy it. But I think that it is only going to get more expensive. Thank you very much for taking the time to come and show us.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
Everything.
Thank you very much. There's a lot of meaningful information here, and as a father of 3 daughters that went through Arrowhead, I want to see this school thrive for decades to come. So, well laid out. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we have I'll call it and then do what you do. The next item on the agenda, thank you guys very much for coming in to show us that. The next item on the agenda is consideration of village board minutes. This is for the September 9th, 11th, and 12th. Or the September 9th, 11th, and 12th meetings that were held. Now is when you do it. Just say what you need to say. You make the motion, you come out and make it, you can do that.
All right, I'd like to, Jeff, make a motion that we move
Suspend the rules.
I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the rules
So that you can.
so that I can move up an item on the agenda.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded, request to suspend the rules so an item can be moved on the agenda. Any discussion? Do you want to just describe why you're doing that?
Yeah, it's been requested that we move item 8 on the agenda up to earlier in the meeting here so that it can be taken care of for time constraints. Yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor of suspending the rules and moving item 8 to the next item? All in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. We are operating under suspended rules. Item 8 is now the item we are taking up now, which is discussion and consideration of a municipal court services proposal of Attorney Kimberly M. Kershak.
If I could just do a little introduction on that. I asked Attorney Kershak to come and do a little meet and greet with the board. As you may recall, we've been looking at some outside attorney services after Von Briesen increased some of the rates to the prosecuting charges for this past year. We worked with Von Briesen over that over this past 9 months or so, and we think we could be a lot more cost effective and probably a little better service driven with Attorney Kershak. I did meet with several attorneys that do provide services with the Lake Country Court. Some have a lot of clientele that probably couldn't take on any more members at this time. And then we had a couple different choices that I think would have been a good fit. Meeting with those, I felt that Attorney Kershak was a great fit for the village of Hartland. It would definitely save us, it would make us more cost effective in the municipal court prosecutor side of the house. Again, typical village attorneys, that's a little different than the municipal prosecution, and it's very common for municipalities to have attorneys that are different, play those roles because of the differences in what the service they're providing. So I think this would be a lot more cost effective for us, and I do think it would actually increase some of the service that we receive from our prosecutor's office. She did write a letter, and I'll let Attorney Kershak just introduce herself in a moment. But you'll see that it will be a flat rate of $1,200 a month. We currently pay by the hour, and those rates had increased fairly significantly for 2024 for us. We had some issues with a prior attorney at Von Briesen, so we had some work to do to get that back up to where we needed to be, and that cost us a little more on the hourly side of the house. So there were some increased costs, kind of a weird concept that they caused the issue, but it charged us to fix the issue. But I do believe that this would be in the best interest for the village, both cost-wise at the $1,200 flat fee a month. The only variable cost that can come into play, which is a very reasonable rate, is if anything were to go to our circuit court, Court of Appeals, or Wisconsin Supreme Court, past the Lake Country Municipal Court, then that would be a charge of $145 per hour, which again, I feel is a very reasonable rate for a municipal prosecutor.
And Von Briesen is aware, Attorney De La Mora is aware. We sat down with him. He's known about this for a couple months. We gave it a couple months, and we decided this is the best decision. All our other prosecuting or all our other legal decisions will still be using Von Briesen. This just makes a lot more sense in-house, and I think you'll see a big savings.
And on that, to just piggyback, not only are they aware, we worked with both Trace and Hector for months. All this has been direct conversations to try to work through the issue, but Attorney De La Mora also supports the change. It's not something that he's against. He definitely understands our concerns, and he supports the change of service, and definitely feels that Attorney Kershak can give us great service for a very reasonable price. And with that, I'll let Kim do a little introduction of herself.
My name is Kimberly Kershak. I'm an attorney. I live in Helenville, but my office is in Greenfield, and I practice all over southeastern Wisconsin. I currently prosecute for the village of Shaniqua and the town of Delafield. I've been practicing law for about 15 years. About for the first 8 or 10, I also prosecuted for the city of Brookfield. I've also filled in down in the city of Milwaukee on an as-needed basis as a municipal prosecutor. Covering a wide variety of areas from traffic things to code violations, OWIs. My letter kind of explains my background, but everything from initial appearances, pre-trials, trials, court trials and jury trials in circuit court. I've had a few cases in the past couple years go to the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals. I had a lady in Shaniqua take me to the Court of Appeals on a parking ticket, so that was fun. But I look forward to the opportunity to serve the village. I think it is a good fit and probably a cost savings. The 145 is a discounted rate that I offer as a municipal prosecutor. My regular hourly rate is $2.50 an hour. If I would raise my rates in the future, I would give written notice well in advance of anything like that. I don't typically raise my rates terribly often to keep them reasonable. Is there anything else? Any questions?
I just want to ask Chief, guesstimate, I'm not looking for an exact, because I didn't email you this question, so I apologize for that. What, if you were to look at the last 6 months and look at the last 12 months, what were we paying per month? Because I know some of those were substantially higher, but I do want to know on an average what those were.
So it does ebb and flow, and then with some of the issues is we had an increase in rate, and it was something that we found out through the billing process, so then we
Right.
had some discussions on, can we figure out a better increase? Not one that was so substantial. So some of the monthlies, our February bill was $4,800. And then it gets a little funky in the sense that May looks like a really big bill, but it's actually a couple months of bills because we were trying to work through this rate thing, and it has to go through the Von Briesen process to get approval to come back. So that's actually a couple, 2 or 3 months, I believe, Ryan, was May's bill. That was $36,000.
Right.
So June then was 663, but then July 5,100, and then August we're back at 11,000. So
See, so that's, yeah,
It's-
that's all I just wanted to know. I mean, so
it's,
none of them are even under that amount.
it's something that we haven't seen historically up until something this
Right,
weird up until this past year, and
okay.
It
Some
used
of
to always
that-
be in the 3,000 to 5,000 range.
That's
a
still a
month.
lot higher than
It
that.
is, but I believe that the other concern was properly prosecuting tickets and ensuring
Right.
that our officer works.
yeah, and we did a lot of things to try to meet them along with that rate adjustment. We took their contact information completely off the circuit or the municipal court website to try to reduce any type of phone calls and service calls that they would get. Now, let me tell you, there's 22 other communities. Every other prosecutor is listed on that, including Attorney Kershak, and they don't seem to have a problem with that. So
Yep.
just some things that we had to try to work through, and I do think, again, this is gonna be a lot better fit for us in the village, both
Yeah.
financially and then service provider-wise. I think it's Attorney Kershak's a very experienced attorney with the Lake Country Municipal Court, and she's very reasonable with the way she prosecutes. So
Yeah.
I think it's a better fit that way as well.
Sure.
You guys all know, all the trustees on the board know, we go through our annual report, and I think a comment I get from each and every one of you every year is, wow, like we're just shocked at how much warnings you actually give when it comes to traffic citations. We make a lot of traffic stops. We're looking for things, we're trying to increase roadway safety, but we also use a lot of discretion in the sense that not everyone's just getting a ticket. When we do write those citations, it's a lot of times for people with either deserving of that citation because of the behavior or the driving or whatever the case may be, and or prior warnings or whatever else. So we use a lot of discretion, and we're hopeful that we can be very reasonable when it comes to prosecuting that then as well.
The only other question that I would have would be, there's some gray area here for the, it's not that big a deal, but I want to know. It says, should the volume of first offense OWI, I suppose I should be asking you, I'm sorry. It says, should the volume of first offense OWI drug warrants substantially increase, then we would go to the 145. Do we have any guidance on that's
You want me
really
to cover that?
open-ended?
Well, yeah, so far as my understanding, there really only are a couple a year. But as your municipal prosecutor, I am on call 24/7, 365 for those warrants. So if there were to be 7 or 8 a year,
Drugs,
then I
yeah.
would, it's only first offense, drug refusals. So
Lauren,
it's
do
a
you wanna explain it?
narrow description of a case.
Yeah, Attorney Kershak did a great job. It's a very narrow case. It's changed with some case law in the last couple of years, where if you have a first offense only, and it's got to be a drug case, if there's alcohol on board, it's not the same variables. So if we smell alcohol or have any type of alcohol indicators, that's not that case. If it's strictly a drug case, think illicit drugs, prescription drugs that cause that operating while intoxicated, then if it's a refusal, we have to go through the warrant process to make sure that that offense sticks. The old way of saying you just refuse and you could get the conviction on a refusal, that went away through some of the case law. So for us to do that, our judiciary wants an attorney to review that. So for all, that's only OWI first offense, because anything over first offense goes to circuit court as a criminal offense. Then our district attorney's office handles that. Our district attorney's office always has a prosecutor on call. So we can call and then get this warrant process started. This warrant process, because it is a thing, it's a templated process. It's a process you have to work through, but it's like a template that you're checking boxes when you meet this criteria. It's not overly difficult, but the judges, if they're waking up at 3 a.m, they want an attorney to make sure that that's done right and they don't have to look at it twice. So that's something that's required. Attorney Kershak saying, because if these ebb and flow, we may not have one for 6 months, and then the next month I could have 4 of them. I can't predict how these offenses come up. So what we're saying is, based off our history of these, she feels that she could work these into our flat rate, which I think is very, very reasonable. And then if it's something like we're calling her once a week on, she's just gonna bill us at hourly rate, which I think is also very reasonable.
Sure. And I was just wondering, just because it does leave, you know what I mean, it's some gray area based on the language.
And the time spent on each one would be minimal.
Right.
Waukesha County is actually the only county that does that has the officer call a prosecutor before the on-call judge.
Sure.
But the time, like Chief Misko said, it's a template, so the time that it actually takes is not that much time.
Thank you.
So as you can see on the agenda, as we've discussed with Von Briesen and they're aware of it, what we'd be looking for consideration is to make this transition for our municipal prosecutor services effective November 1st. So that would give us time to transition cases over to Attorney Kershak's office. Again, that timeline was discussed with Attorney Delamora, and he felt that that was reasonable and something that they can accomplish on their end as well.
I think this is a no-brainer. I'd make a motion that we move our municipal court services to Attorney Kimberly M. Kershak effective November 1st.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to move the prosecution and municipal court services to Attorney Kimberly M. Kershak effective November 1st, between Attorney Kershak and the Village of Hartland effective November 1st. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
I apologize to the board. I have to step out for like a minute. Be right back. Okay, we're back in session now, so we took up item 8. We were operating under suspended rules. We're back rolling here. We're on item 2. Item 2 on our agenda is consideration of the village board minutes of the September 9th, September 11th, and September 12th meetings.
I'll make a motion to approve the village board meeting minutes for September 9th.
Second.
It's been moved
11th,
and
12th.
seconded to approve the minutes for the,
Said all three.
All three.
for all 3 meetings on September 9th, September 11th, and September 12th. Does the second agree that they were seconding all 3?
Yes.
All right. Discussion?
Yeah, I've got just technicality on the minutes here. All of them say for September 11th, September 12th, they say Monday, which should be Wednesday and Thursday.
I will make that change. Thank you.
All right, under the consideration that that change would be made, Trustee Connor, do you have anything else?
Nope. I'm good.
Anybody else have anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried for all 3 with those changes being made. Now we have the third item, items related to vouchers. We have consideration of a 2023 Paving Program Project Closeout for Wolf Paving Company. It's a request for a final payment of $42,042.21.
And all this is the retainer from the 2023 paving. So we hang on to that for a year, make sure anything is fixed as well as it can be fixed, and then we have to pay it. So we are at that time, it is done, so we will make the payment.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 paving project closeout payment to Wolf Paving Company of $42,042.21.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to make that closeout payment to Wolf Paving. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have consideration of a contractor request for payment number 1, State Highway 83, Water Main Rehabilitation, Mid-City Corporation in the amount of $155,690.75.
So this is just payment 1 on the Highway 83 water main relay. There will be a 2.1, 2.4, somewhere in that range, $1 million for this contract. They just wanted to get their first payment because they do have some work going on, so.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve contractor request for payment number 1 on South Highway 83 Water Main Rehabilitation, Mid-City Corporation, in the amount of $155,690.75.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to make the payment for the 2024, for the State Highway 83 Water Main Rehabilitation and Mid-City Corporation in the amount of $155,690.75. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have consideration of contractor request for payment number 2. This is the 2024 paving program. This is the Stark Pavement Corporation in the amount of $387,852.25.
And this is just the 2024 road paving program. I believe this might be the final payment and only the retainage left to get paid next year. Anything else?
correct,
Yep.
I'll make a motion that we proceed with payment number 2 for the 2024 paving program to Stark Pavement Corporation in the amount of $387,852.25.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to pass payment number 2 for the 2024 paving program to Stark Pavement Corporation in the amount of $387,852.25. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have consideration of vouchers for payment in the amount of $1,026,215.64.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the vouchers in the amount of $1,026,215.64. However, if one of the payments to Hartland Lights, it's a deposit of $2,500, it's in here twice. If that is a duplicate payment, I'd like one of those to be taken off.
Yes, we will do that. And did you say Heartland Lights or Northern Lights?
Oh, it says Hartland Lights in here.
I think it's for the Northern
Oh,
Lights.
Northern Lights drone shows, excuse me.
Okay, yep. So we believe that one item was paid via manual check and then again on the register. So if that's the case, we will take that $2,500 off. That is a bid payment, not village, but
Okay.
sorry, you guys need a second.
Second.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to pay the vouchers in the amount of $1,026,215.64 with the stipulation that staff is going to look, verify, check, and correct that if that is a duplicate payment, that duplicate payment gets taken off, I do want to clarify, if all of a sudden we did duplicate, will we just go to the company and say, hey, you got to give us $2,500 back?
Yeah, well, so it's a $10,000 fee that they're paying for that anyway, so it would have just,
Deposit, yeah.
there would have been 5,000 left.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion is carried. Now we have action items related to license and permits. We have a consideration of a special event application for Arrowhead Homecoming Parade. Do we want, would you just briefly speak, just brief, is everything the same as last year?
Yep, just following the same as last year. We added 2 neighborhoods, I think, 2 of the postcards. We backed the start time up 15 minutes. We had a bus issue last year, couldn't get through the parade. So we think we addressed the 2 issues that we saw last year, but other than that, everything.
Yeah, and I think you talked to the schools, correct?
We talked to the schools,
So
yeah.
what happened last year, some of the bus drivers, ironically, one of our employees, her son was dropped off at Sweet Dreams and said, walk home, which is like a mile for a 3rd grader. Not your fault. Surprised the bus driver chose that for the elementary school. So on the application, it says line up at 4 and parade at 4:30. We've asked it's 4:15 and 4:45, just to give the school bus time, and you guys are under that understanding.
Yeah.
And letters have or haven't been mailed? or
They
will
haven't
be?
been mailed yet. We hold them so it's a little closer to the event.
Perfect.
They're all printed though.
I'll make a motion to approve the special event application for Arrowhead Homecoming Parade.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve the special events application for Arrowhead Homecoming Parade. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have consideration of restricted, thank you very much. Consideration of a restricted species application for Michaela Hopwood at 322 East Capitol Drive.
She's the owner of said creatures, but I'm gonna speak on her behalf. 'Cause
Just a
she's-
brief overview is all. You're good.
No problem.
Can you give your name, please?
I'm sorry. My name is Kelly Hopwood. This is my daughter, Michaela Hopwood. We are the infamous now pig owners here in Hartland on Capitol Drive. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Apparently, there was a complaint. We don't know what the complaint consisted of. Obviously, don't make noise. They live in the house. They're quieter than our dogs. We clean up after them regularly, so I have no idea.
Yeah, and I'm guessing the complaint, so for the village, you can have 2 dogs, 2 cats, certain things like that. Any chickens, pigs, anything like that is just a restricted species.
Sure.
So your process of what you're doing now and coming and asking is essentially if the board okays it, that blesses it, so.
And to clarify, their house pigs, they live in the house. They just go outside. They're trained like the dogs to go outside, so they're basically giant cats that go outside and, well, not giant, I shouldn't say that. They're actually relatively small. I think Jeff knows, Adam knows.
Yep.
I have one question. You have 2 dogs too, right?
Yes, we do.
Are they both licensed at the village?
I don't know if they're not. We're happy to license them. I kind of asked about the pigs when we first got them 4 years ago, and I didn't really get an answer, so I am happy to license them.
Well, every year that comes with your property taxes?
Okay, we rent a house,
Okay.
so it's a friend of ours' house that we've been renting for about 7 years.
They have to be redone every year.
Okay, that's fine.
I know one that does hers probably hasn't expired yet.
Okay. Apparently one of them might be, the other one might not. One of the dogs might be, but the other one might not. So
Okay.
she's the boss and handles all of that, so.
Good.
Yeah, as far as the complaint goes, the police department did receive an anonymous complaint. Only complaint was that there was just pigs. It wasn't that the pigs were doing anything, or damaging anything or anything of that sort. So we did make contact at the house. To tell you the truth, I thought those pigs were here the whole time I was police chief here in the village of Hartland, and I just figured there was permits already on file. We've never had a problem. This is the only time that we have anything on record was with this anonymous complaint. And then when we reached out to the owners, we just said, you gotta take care of the proper permits. And again, we've not received any other complaints about the behavior or issues or anything else along those lines with the pigs being at that address. I've seen them there for years. I just again assumed that that was something that was done pre me becoming the police chief here in the village of Hartland.
I don't usually say this, but I do find it funny sometimes when you get an anonymous complaint where it's like, I want to see someone get in trouble, but I don't want anybody to know that I made the complaint.
And we recently moved their enclosure kind of to the front of our house so that they can go out the front door because we had an incident over the winter where they used to go out the back. And when the snow is high, they have little legs and they can't go anywhere, so we had one going down Capitol Drive, which was not fun at all. So they do listen and they do recall, they're trained, but at the same time, that's why we're obviously not trying to hide them. They're right in the front of our house on Capitol Drive. So forgive me for not registering them properly or doing whatever in the past.
It's actually kind of fun where you have them now. I drive past the Hoppos all the time. I'm on Capitol as well, and when I drive past, more often than not, there are people who are walking by that are stopping and saying hello to the pigs, and they bring a little bit of happiness on Capitol Drive, I feel. I'll make a motion that we approve the restricted species permit for Michaela Hopwood.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve the restricted species permit for the, what?
Yeah, indefinitely.
Yeah, okay, I was gonna clarify that. This is an indefinite, Chief, you're good with that?
Correct, yeah, the only time
I
we
don't
would
know what the
ever,
ordinance says, but,
we have ability to, have it revocated, but that would be something like if we got complaints because the pigs were running loose or
or they
there
bit
was an
someone or something
odor
like
and
that.
the neighbors, were like something like that, and we haven't experienced that, so. Same thing with any of the other restricted species, we'd really only come back, to revocate if there was an ongoing issue of some sort.
Yeah, so keep the crowds to under 60 at a time, petting the pig.
I made a little Facebook rant and we got like 500 positive comments and like no negative comments, so a lot of people love the pigs and we do too, so I, again, didn't mean to cause any drama for anyone, we try to get along with everyone. And
So this will be indefinite, but as Trustee Walschlager suggested, because it's a yearly for the dogs, because I think that's what you were referring to, come in and file one of those.
happy to.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Come see the piggies.
We'll be
anytime
by
you
to see them soon. Now we have consideration of fireworks permit application. This is for the Legend at Bristol Cone, on October 12th, 2024. Do we have anyone here for that?
Available by Zoom.
Oh, yeah, that's wonderful. If you could please state
Sorry.
your name and your address, how you're associated with Bristol Cone, and you can have the floor if you just want to briefly explain.
Yeah, sure. My name is Tom Brune. I'm the CEO of the Legend Clubs in general. So obviously this is our Bristol Cone address, which is on 1500 East Arlen Drive inside of the Bristol Cone Pines subdivision. We have a wedding that it's applied or requested to host a fireworks on their wedding day.
Okay.
Chief, any issues?
The exact.
I've already talked to the fireworks company. We'll do a site visit before the fireworks display. They've done it out there before a couple of times and have had no issues, so.
We're gonna need just one more time for clarification. Can you clarify the address you're referring to and the exact address that these will be shot off from, the exact location?
Sure. So I think we did provide a map of where the actual fireworks are going to take place, but they're right off hole number 1, which is on the Legend Club's property.
Okay.
The club itself is located at 1500 East Arlen Drive in Hartland. And typically what they do is they drive on a golf cart path on hole number 1. So the fireworks is basically being directed towards the golf course, so that way it's easier for us to clean up.
Sure. And we have an address on the application? Okay.
Yep,
I just wanted
we're
to
good.
clarify where it was being shot off, so, yep, perfect, thank you.
Yep.
Make a motion to approve the fireworks permit application for the Legend at Bristol Cone for the wedding.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Legend at Bristol Cone setting off of fireworks on October 12th, 2024, near, very close to, and in the vicinity of hole number 1. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you, appreciate it.
Yep. And now we have items referred from the September 16th, 2024 Plan Commission meeting. We have review and consideration of an extraterritorial certified survey map for the Bong property. This is at N61W30697 Beaverview Road, Town of Merton. Like this read, this is coming from Plan Commission. We've already touched on the fact that this is not anticipated to, probably nor never will come into the village of Hartland. It falls within our extraterritorial purview too. Oh, is there someone here? Okay, if you want to speak, you can. I don't think you're gonna need to. If the board wants you to, you can. And the only reason I said that, if the board does want them to come up and speak.
Yeah, we just have a radius for anybody they have to come forward.
1.5 miles outside of our border, we get to say yes or no, because we're the village and they're a town. But it's probably never gonna be in the village of Hartland.
Yeah, no problem.
Make a motion that we approve the extraterritorial certified survey map for the Bong property on Beaverview Road.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the extraterritorial certified survey map for the Bong property at N61W30697 Beaverview Road, Town of Merton. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Now we have we have other items that are for consideration. We have a building needs study presentation by Keller Inc. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Do I get an introduction or not?
Bring pizza.
We've had lots of meetings so far.
This is Devin with Keller. Yeah, we've had, what have we had, 3 or 4 meetings with staff and in the hopeful development future of the village. I'll let you kind of explain what we did, the processes, and what we're looking for. I know the ultimate item on here is for you guys hopefully to schedule a special meeting. The point of that is so that we can have a day where we anticipate, where we can have open, honest conversations for longer than rushing into the end of a meeting, so.
So I will probably plan on like quick 10 minutes-ish. So what the plan was to walk you through what we've done so far, where we currently sit today, and then kind of what those next steps are. So I would advocate that we have a special meeting. There's a lot of information, a lot of questions, primarily the tough questions that need to be asked at some point. I think it's worth having a long meeting to really dig into those details. So where we are today, so 3 of the main things. So we went through a needs assessment, and we have very rough preliminary plans, and we have very rough budgets. Most of this process has been digging into what those needs are. So it's this booklet. You know, I can pass this around, but it is an interview process where the architect goes through each individual space. I know the group has been through that before. It is a lovely long process. Quite a few hours has been invested into each individual department.
Yeah, but I do have to make a note to the board. The thoroughness of this questionnaire, Sandy and I sat with him for like 4 hours before we even got to rec, and I was like, dude, we're just like 5. They were very thorough. Like, we actually got something compared to the last building study we did.
Good.
If it took you guys 5 hours, are we gonna need like 7 meetings?
Probably.
Because we're good at questions on this board. You are. Go ahead.
So that's where we started off. So we went through each individual department and really dug into what those needs are. So the needs and wants, this gets brought up every project. It's something that I always like to touch on. When we go through this, I am the person, so the architect's not here tonight. He's on and off depending on where he's at. So I am the one that I have to come to a board no matter what it is, or council or whatever. And it is my responsibility to try to identify a need and a want. So it's my responsibility. Yes, we are your hired consultant, but it's my responsibility to push back on staff. I think from what we reviewed initially to what we have now, number one, it got smaller, and there was a lot of benefits when we dug into those needs as far as some shared spaces that I'll touch on. So we got to very rough preliminary plan. So we are at a conceptual site plan at this point. The next step is going to be, in-depth floor plan and then elevations. However, we're at a point now, I thought it was very beneficial to begin those conversations. So mostly because of the money factor, and we'll get to that in a moment. But touching on some of the main points for police and fire. So obviously it's on the existing fire station property. It would have to be demolished, and then you would have to be off-site somewhere else. This has been done before. It is not ideal, however, with the location in the city, with kind of the response time, it made a lot of sense to really dig into that. So Big picture, you are fairly tight on that site. However, looking at other municipalities, looking at other departments, there's kind of a threshold. When you get a building up to a certain point, especially with fire and EMS, you start having satellite stations elsewhere. And then with the police, we do have a little bit of room. I'm talking, 30, 40, 50 years from now, what can they do to alleviate that? So with a fire department this large, you will typically start going to satellite stations because you just simply having more equipment in one spot doesn't help a response time once you get to buildings that are in this range. So one of the concerns, and I know this was discussed at the last board meeting, are some of those wetlands, floodplains, and that's why we're really digging into that. So without getting too far into it, we are fairly close right now. Once we get that information back, we're going to be able to verify that. Ideally, we're going to make it work. Can we push and pull a little bit? Absolutely. So that is one of the contributing factors without getting too far into it. I want to update the board, I want to get our facts and figures, and I want to stay flexible enough where if we get thrown a curveball, we can make adjustments. This is, when we talk about big pictures, this is a 50-year building. So this is a building that you really shouldn't have to do with anything for 50 years. Let's say your population doubles in size. Yes, you're going to have to do something. There isn't room in here. There's not empty rooms. There's not all sorts of different stuff. That question has got brought up in other municipalities as well. But you have, I want to say, one office on each side that is potentially a future office down the road. So one of the things that we really dug into before we had a floor plan was how do we look at this down the road for 50 years? Shared spaces. So with the fire and police, we have the lobby, we have the training room, we have public restrooms, we have fitness, we have conference. So the conversation of two different buildings, as we're kind of walking through this, what happens if we combine them? What are some of those benefits that we combine them? So both chiefs worked on, a couple different meetings. How do we get as much bang for our buck with some of these spaces? And then the next thing that led into it was they were working together on, is there an opportunity to have potentially some staff that covers that lobby? So rather than having two different lobbies, can you have a single lobby? Can you have someone that is spearheading that and then directing it elsewhere? So with the fire and police, the next step would be getting into the floor plan, would be getting into those elevations. However, I do think the next step should be a special meeting to really dig into that. So with fire and police, we are at approximately 34,542 square feet, which puts us somewhere between 15 and 21 million. That's a huge range right now. However, I don't know what this looks like. I don't know if we're going two-story or not. I don't know all of these individual factors. That's a huge range. However, we're early enough that I feel comfortable that we're going to be somewhere in that. Can we go to...
Yeah, real quick, I also just want to say, you guys see that red line? That's the estimated floodplain. That's why we're having it delineated. I think Chief Jambers would tell you he's never seen water in any of that red area in his career here, correct? Correct. It is the floodplain, so that's just kind of based off of GIS, what you put it down. Rupert Milky's gonna truly verify and come where it is. You can't have any building in the floodplain that would move, but parking lot can be. Hence Senior Tomas's parking lot, that's a floodplain. And has never flooded that much.
That much.
Go ahead. No, that.
I remember seeing the pond underwater that.
2008, maybe.
We have pictures at the shop. Do you want to go to the next?
I am.
Okay.
There you go. We have. I'm running for them, and the
Gotcha.
guy in back in there runs for everybody.
So admin and rec. Similar goals, 50-year building, how do we look down the road? One of the things that once we started touring through this building, touring through the fire department, in those early meetings is looking at everything, trying to put myself in your shoes and trying to understand what do you do with this building. That was the main driver. So if you take fire and police and you put them in a building, it makes a lot of sense. You have all these efficiencies, and now you have this building, and now you still have all the problems, and you have half the usage, and you still have a building that doesn't work. So then what do you do? We originally looked at a couple different options and eliminated what those potentially could be. There's a different version on this site actually. So this site was discussed with me as an underutilized park, and we've actually done this a handful of times. I think it's a great site. I think it makes a ton of sense if it's an underused site to, number one, use the property, but then two, offer some benefits with the building project itself. So if it's underused site, underused park, how do we make the park a little more attractive? How do we make some improvements to it? How do we make it more destination location per se, but then also utilizing the property at the park. So we originally looked at the Cottonwood. There are substantial challenges. We have a individual on staff. He worked for an excavating company for about 40 some years. So he did go to that property. It's a nice open site. It has quite a few challenges as far as fill, trying to bring that up to grade. He kind of went through a budgeting process, some substantial funds in order to make that a very usable property. So this ended up being a great opportunity, and combining both of the admin and rec into a single facility. Trying to make sure I look at all of my notes. So that is, what is that? 27,000. So that is roughly 11 to 13 million. And I think we're right around 30-ish thousand.
It's 31.
31.
After we made some changes, so it's 31.2 or 31. Yeah, it's supposed to be 31. This is the older version from
31
square feet.
Yeah, the reason for the change, we had a walking path around that was going through the pickleball courts. We just thought it'd be nice to maybe have the people walking off the pickleball courts.
There's a multi-purpose facility that this includes, and so yes, as Ryan's saying, we had to expand that space so that instead of having the initial plan of having maybe set walking times, we could have a walking path that's open all the time indoors, and then also have our facilities for pickleball.
Session stands, bleachers, because you would be housing events, things like that there.
I thought it was just the garage for your golf cart. Okay, go ahead.
You're lucky I can't hear you, Ryan.
So that facility is it's all one, as he stated, but there's a rec center component that we'll get to at a future meeting of plans, administration, housing of elections, possible future sporting events, event center, venue center, that type of thing.
That's all part of this or not?
That's all part of that. That's all part of that. With the parking, it takes an underutilized, the reason for the location, I mean, I honestly, when I thought of it and mentioned it, I kind of laughed at it, but it brings a great use to an underutilized baseball field that we have issues with.
Can I ask you, what's the definition of underutilized? I mean, that game is, that field is being used every night.
Public Works talking about how it holds moisture, it's not a great field.
Yeah, but they're gonna use it year-round for indoor sports here.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but I don't think it's underutilized right now. I mean, she's the one that schedules the fields. Well, season's over, dude.
I would say this is the one where, when it rains, we don't go draw it, because we can't get, because it's so wet. It is constantly our wet field.
I actually think you should put police there too.
So, real quick, then, the area, that's kind of off the screen where the park, playground equipment and everything else, are we gonna still utilize part of this park for a park, or does that go away, or what's the plan there? Because there's another, like a T-ball field over there too, isn't there?
That all stays.
So does the Cottonwood Wayside, is that under flood, is that a floodplain?
That's part of the delineation to see what is and isn't usable, how much would have to be drawn in. Because ideally, the thought with taking this field away would be to put a field down on the Cottonwood Wayside. It's not big enough for a facility, we talked about that. When you go to like a baseball game, if there's 20 kids, there's 40 cars for whatever reason. So you'll have one field down there, you know how Pembroke is right now, it's tight on parking. So that facility would probably have better parking with a field.
Well, I just wanna know if that was gonna be an option, cause if it's in the floodplain, then obviously it's not an option.
That's all, everything we're waiting on. But baseball field, again, if, I feel like
Ryan, could
we
we
drew
add a
this
baseball
floodplain here
field
to.
in
Huh?
Centennial?
Huh?
Could we add a baseball field in Centennial? On the back area? I call it the back from Highway K.
Special meeting discussion?
Okay. I think the whole point is that if we are taking away a baseball field with this plan, that we would find a solution, whether it's Centennial or Cottonwood Wayside. So I think, yes, you're right, that field does get used quite a bit because baseball is pretty prevalent in Hartland. I think generally speaking, the rest of the park is what's underutilized. And we've got a playground set, we've got the T-ball, which it gets used, but those wouldn't be as affected. So if we do take this baseball field away, part of the plan is to have a solution to provide another baseball field somewhere else in Hartland.
And that's part of the hard part, is the locations that we have, we're trying to utilize what we can. With the police department, we talked about, there's guys that crush softballs. We're gonna have to come up with much higher netting or some kind of roof for the employee parking to make sure our vehicles don't get hit. So.
They're hitting the fire department now.
So
There's
where
no
we
way to
got,
squeeze a baseball field out of this. Here?
correct.
No, yeah, anywhere on the park.
We could talk about it at that
Special
special meeting. I don't think there's room in here. There might be. Just a thought.
So that is where we are today. And again, we're navigating kind of the interior plans portion. And what the next steps look like. I think number one, we're at a point where I want to get some feedback from the board, which is what the main driver of the special meeting. Get feedback on locations, square footage, the budget, things of that nature to help guide and make sure we're all on the same page.
This is gonna sound a little crazy, but I got a question. Is it okay for me to ask? I know this is conceptual.
Special meeting.
Well, I can't just wait for a special meeting. I mean, I can ask in the meeting.
Ask.
So originally, when we started this, we had started talking about doing village hall and police department out and back, with most of the focus being on police department because their building is whatever, 110 years old. It's just been reused and reused and reused, and village hall doesn't need to be reused that much. And RAC has nothing. So I'm gonna throw it out just because I'm just throwing things out. It may cost more money, but what's wrong with building? I'm worried about being able to sell this site. We got a whole community that's gonna come and say, you can't get rid of that. It's like throwing away someone's great grandmother because it's been part of this village for so long. And it's so thin, you're not gonna just go sell it. If you go and sell this, I'm gonna walk in and say, okay, it's 6 stories high to get the people that we need in it. People are gonna be like, oh my God, that's 6 stories, you can't do it. It's gonna be so many problems. Do we have to have rec? Does rec have to be connected to Village Rec Center?
I don't think it does, but we've spent a lot of time, as Ryan has mentioned and Devin has mentioned, and try to find efficiencies by grouping. So the original approach was to take all of the departments separately, and we bundled those two because not only for efficiencies, but also for registrations. I mean, a lot of the day upstairs is rec
So that would
program
more- so they do
participants
need-
coming upstairs to purchase their next, activity, whether it's punch card or registration processes. It's helpful with the small number of staff we have, and they're all cross-trained. I mean, we would be looking at if we have rec separate and we keep registration by the rec center. I mean, then you're gonna have additional staffing needs.
Right, okay.
Speaking from the park board, we're asking Sarah to really expand her programming, and there's programs right now that she can't provide with the program, the room that we have now.
I know, I was saying
So-
to the buildings, for instance, I was saying, if we build a rec, let's say we build Village Hall across the parking lot here, and then still try to tear this down, but this was downtown. I was saying if the rec center, the rec youth center, was not touching the village, so two different locations, but we're still getting the rec center, I was asking, because I wanted to know if it had to be connected to Village
So
Hall.
anything's possible, but I think what a lot of our consideration has come into is just to put these together for efficiencies. So we save on staffing, we save on space.
Were you referring to reusing this building with rec? Oh, okay.
No,
Oh,
there's nothing you're gonna be able to do in here except for play cards.
I mean, essentially, you would tear this down and build like a 5,000 square foot building in the parking lot for rec and admin.
Gotcha.
Well, not here. I was thinking somewhere else. There wouldn't be enough room, I don't think, for rec here. No.
What's the square footage of this building?
PD,
I don't know all of it.
PD is
The
about,
whole
with the
building.
garage and PD, it's about 6,800 square feet.
I thought this was around 30,000 when they were talking, weren't they, with
So,
everything? 'Cause-
PD with garage is like it was just under 7,000 square feet, so the community center, because it doesn't have the garage, a little smaller than that.
So figure 10 there and 15 on this side
So
because
yeah,
of the 3 stories.
we're at least probably 12,000 square feet on the old side, the 1950s car dealership side of the building, and then, I don't know what this.
It's like 1920s.
Yeah, whatever it is, yeah.
There's video from the 1930s of cars coming out of there.
So
There's
then
video.
this side, you gotta at least be another 10,000 square feet for both levels.
I didn't make the agenda.
So you're
Yeah.
thinking
So really-
30,000 total?
Well, probably under that, 25-ish.
So we're doubling the size with the two buildings.
No, because you're not putting in the firehouse that is probably 8,000.
8,000 square feet.
Well, you got 30,000, the
Yep,
27,000 went to 30,000, right?
So we're going from 60 to 38.
Then you got the public safety is 34, is what
Yep,
it's,
that's what I'm saying. So you're going from 38 with fire to 65. Yeah.
yeah, okay.
And if you remember on our last study, they had the PD alone, I think at 33,000 square feet was their recommendation. So we're doing that with police and fire. Now with that, I will say comes some sacrifices. The build out for 50 years, like a building for 50 years, a true 50-year building, it's maybe a little tight on that. But we're also cutting 10,000 square feet plus out of a building. So pros and cons and how we're trying to balance what we're doing to move forward. Back to the public safety, we were looking at putting PD up at Hartbrook initially with, I think Zimmerman showed some plans with that, with the Village Hall. That would basically take that whole park out. This concept leaves the Village Hall very accessible with that rec center, and also leaves some park use
Yep.
as well. So you got some outdoor park facility, and then you also have the indoor. Now, we are adding square footage for the rec center, but that's because we really don't have one of those. So anything we add, yeah, we have the 5,000 square feet, but I think the village president hit it on the head that for playing cards in, really. I mean, that and.
That's about all you can do.
You're not
Or read a
doing
book.
volleyball, like any traditional school type sport.
Yeah.
And to
That
be
rec
honest,
program is not able to do that, and this new facility would do something like that. And then with public safety, we were hopeful that we can really combine some services in that. So, fire department has their weekly meetings, and they have all their staff coming in for that. We utilize this boardroom quite a bit as the police department for operational matters and training, but it's not well situated for our needs, and it's definitely not confidential. I mean, anyone can walk up to that door and find out what we're planning or what we're debriefing on like a search warrant or any type of call like that. But that, you guys have been in the police department. I don't have the space to do any of that in there anywhere. My office, I guess, but you can't fit 20 SWAT guys doing that. So that's where that all got difficult. So we utilized, hey, they have a big need for that. We have a need for it. We can really maximize the space there and both get use out of something like with that square footage. We can purpose it as an EOC as well. So there's a lot of multi-purposing that we're trying to put into it to be very cognizant of the money that we're putting into the building, but also making sure we can provide a great service to the community for decades to come. And that's what we're trying to figure out. And then with staffing, we thought, hey, if we had one lobby, you come to the window and we send you police or fire or whatever, which way we need to do. If fire's got a lot going on, I can divert resources that I have for my administrative assistants to help him out with fire grants or payroll or whatever big's going on there. But if they're slow, then I can utilize his staff to help me with the more and more open records requests we're processing by the day. Everything that's going on at the police department, people coming in to file reports, get property, do whatever it is that they're coming in for at the police department. So we can probably lose at least a half staff person to then utilize what we already currently have. So there would be saving in year-to-year staff costs there. It wouldn't be huge, but it would definitely be tens of thousands of dollars year to year to year to year. So we're bringing all those efficiencies to that building. And then Chief Jamberts has the unique issue of how do I get people into my firehouse? So while I'm using both protocols, they're here to go on those calls. So fitness centers, things like that, that's stuff that we can utilize as well. And then really get the best bang for our buck with that type of square footage. So Keller's done a really phenomenal job. I almost fell out of my seat when Devin gave us the first go at it, because he really met our priority needs. And I was thinking 25,000 square feet for the police department in my head. And we were at 20, just under 20. So I was pretty impressed with how he was able to fit that in and make it flow. My only concern is if it's 50 years from now, I just hope we're in the right place. 50, that's what we're trying to plan for, and it's hard to do that when you just don't know what 50 years looks like. Did you want to say that?
It should be more than 30,000. I mean, based on historical data, we'll be at 20, so we definitely shouldn't be over 30. You know.
And you have other communities that are like Cottage Grove just studied. I think FGMA put them at 30,000 square feet. They're smaller than us right now, but they're also the fastest growing community as a Dane County suburb. Them, Fitchburg, those communities, Sun Prairie are just,
Fastest growing county in the state.
yeah, they're growing like wildfire right now. So they're trying to figure out same problem. We're planning for 50 years and our population's on fire, but it's like 30,000 square foot for a 8,000 person community is a tough thing to get your head wrapped around long term too.
Sandy, what were the dates that we were talking about for a potential meeting?
October 10th, 15th, or 22nd?
A special meeting dates?
And we're looking at obviously 6 PM start time. 6:03.
I'm out of town on the 10th.
Don't worry about it, I'll look on my phone.
10th, 15th, and 22nd.
What are the days that those are on?
Thursday, Tuesday.
No Wednesdays.
Wednesdays, I forgot that didn't work for, I thought there, we internally tried to find some days.
I just lined up the chicken wings.
You're getting no food or no sugar.
Should we do the 22nd since it's farther out, gives people time to make.
I can make, those dates are fine for me.
I'm fine with any of
Don't
the
let it
dates.
think.
Second works fine for me.
I've got something on the 10th.
So, I don't have a life.
Take a motion to make this happen?
Hold on.
No, you don't have a life, you just.
Yeah, and again, so tonight was to kind of give you an introduction, we'll get into more of the details, talk through everything we essentially talked about
If the Brewers
tonight.
go to the playoffs, this all changes. I'm just saying, it does.
probably
People aren't buying tickets.
This special meeting, we could probably put it on the TV.
Well, if people have tickets, but. 10th and, what was the, we had the 10th?
We're talking about the 15th and
15th,
22nd.
22nd.
See, just look at the 22nd.
Let me check my retired calendar.
Those
Yeah, I'm
work for
fine.
me.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
15th would be a game 2. 22nd would be a game 7. Probably safe to do the 22nd then.
Why would you do that?
So we miss game 7. Just pick a day.
Just remember your civic duties come first.
We can do the 22nd, they'll have it done by then.
I will be sick that day if they're not.
6.
I will be too, I won't be here.
Are we gonna pick a date then? Yeah.
Make a motion that we schedule a special meeting for the 22nd at 6 PM.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to have the special meeting on October 22nd at 6 PM. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Discussion?
Oh, sure, you didn't say anything.
I was waiting for you to say, oh.
Go ahead.
Maybe like 6:05 since I work till 6 PM?
6:05 is fine.
Well, with discussion, did you have anything further you wanted to state? I mean, go ahead.
So with this meeting, I think, to me, timing and budget are gonna be big points of discussion. I would like to have a floor plan so we can take a look at that. We, and staff, have spent a tremendous amount of time. So, moving the pieces and shifting things is very feasible. However, there's usually an architect here, and I'm kind of the money guy. We can move and twist pieces all we want, but to me, the big picture, what's the timing on this project? What's the, is this feasible from a monetary standpoint? Are we heading the right direction for the sites? I would prefer answering the tough questions, having those tough conversations, getting that feedback, and then keep moving forward, and then, in another 2-3 months, providing more updates. So I would encourage everyone to let's have the tough conversations early on.
And I promise you, when we say there were hours, tens of hours with Chief, Sarah. There was thoughts of, can police go here, other than a side hand comment at a meeting of somebody saying that should also be at that location. We thought I don't know, you guys each had 10, 15 hours in meeting with them. There's been plenty of work and discussion. So it's not, I promise you that there has been a lot of thought into what goes into everything and where and why. That can obviously change, but, I mean, we have a lot of Crest Street on North Shore. If we wanted, we could build something there, we could buy it, and we could get as crazy as you guys wanna get.
That'd be too far away from Bristol Cone.
Luckily.
You'll send an updated map
Yes.
with the updated, square footage?
Yep.
So that can be sent to the board? Just, it's hard for, so that we're looking at whatever you guys are looking at, whatever's the most up to date.
Just to both of the chiefs, it seems the efficiencies that you've talked about are, they make a ton of sense from efficiency and cost savings as well. Do you have any concerns? Well, first of all, to your point, Chief Misko, maybe the square footage isn't quite enough. If you're looking at a 50-year plan, where are you cutting back? I mean, you're trying to be responsible and frugal with the plan, but is there something that you're cutting out?
The normal pinch points always come up as you grow as a community. What's really causing us to look at this is almost what causes every police department that really gets it going, is that evidence room is like always the first thing to go, that square footage. I think we did a good job building for that growth as of right now. We did that almost probably pretty close to right size with the ability to expand on it as well.
That's the big kicker.
Didn't you say there was 2 rooms? One for each one for future growth?
Yeah.
What's that kind of square footage
Small
is that?
offices, so probably just like a 12 by 12.
Oh.
It could be a 2-story? Or they could put,
It could be. So
No.
those are the things that we've talked about so far. However, as of right now, everything is on the first floor.
That's both facilities. Once you get a second story, you're talking elevators, you're talking buku costs once you get.
And some of our other concerns is we've kept the office, like any office expansion, pretty tight, which I'd almost rather like add it and call it a storage room for now until then we need it. And again, I'm trying to think, put my 20-year, 30-year hat on, and I'd hate for someone to come to you, to that board and say, hey, I got a detective in a closet, because we're out of office space, which is what I'm coming here and telling you guys right now. So some of those areas, like if we added a reasonable amount of square footage, you wouldn't hear no out of me. I think it would be the right decision to make. But we're also trying to bring something that we think is reasonable as possible. And if you really compare it to a presentation you heard earlier today, look at the percentage that we're doing, and we're building out the whole, almost everything but the DPW is getting rebuilt, not just the high school. And we're doing it for very small fraction, I might add.
You guys also have to remember the goal, and everybody talking about 30, 50 years. 30 years ago, we didn't have half the subdivisions we do now. In 30 to 50 years, we are not going to double. If we do, you can dig up my grave and tell me I was wrong. There's zero chance that will happen. And if you build a new facility and residents come into it and go, wow, that's a lot of empty open space. You just spent how much money on all that empty space? You're gonna get butchered as well. There's oodles of space at both locations, I promise you.
We'll be able to get the people in here, don't worry. Wait till you see it 30 years from now and we're 26 stories up.
There's no 30, 50 years.
And Chief
How much more room do we have on this piece of property to expand it above the 34,000?
We have room for police. So one of the, when we look at that building, those shared services, so that lobby, the training room, public restrooms, that's kind of the center. I think police has more ability to move. Fire, it's gonna be a little more challenging. However, as that comment I stated earlier, typically when a department or a fire EMS department gets to that size, they start looking at
Doing
satellite
satellites,
stations.
right.
So,
Now, I'm just saying for clarity, as a village board, we have not talked about satellite at all. We've talked about making a full-time fire department right there.
correct.
I'm just making sure that
Yeah.
Yeah.
because the village isn't gonna get that much bigger. I'm just saying it hasn't come up before to start saying, okay, we got a satellite out, so I'd hate to build a 50-year building around the fact that, yeah, you're gonna build satellites, because who's ever on the board is then stuck doing that without having known that info.
Right.
Okay.
That comment is primarily if there is a,
I think you're thinking of like other communities.
right, if you all of a sudden
When
have
Hartland's taking care of all the
tons of
communities.
subdivisions and this area
Yep.
had a high density.
Right.
Then you would put one over there.
Okay. Oh, yeah,
Just gotta vote.
this is the vote on the meeting. Anybody else want to speak in discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. To clarify, that date is the 22nd of October at 6:05.
can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Whatever happened to redoing some of the stuff over at DPW?
Theirs would be expansions that we're talking are hundreds of thousands of dollars, not tens of millions of dollars.
But are we still looking at it?
I'm more concerned about an officer who's in a closet
I
versus a
understand that, but
more
is that
garage.
also being looked at somewhere?
They're gonna come forward, not for 25, but yes, in future years.
Okay.
We also have employees hitting sheds, that if they didn't hit sheds, they would be more useful as well. Just had somebody back into one of our sheds.
Oh.
It's not tall enough to lift, so when the dump box opened up and lifted, it hit the top of the roof.
Oh.
Yeah, you should know better.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you in a few weeks.
See you in a couple weeks. See ya.
124 pages.
I will have food at that
Well,
meeting.
usually,
Nobody will be happy with it, but I will have it.
I like food.
Jessica's not here, so I.
You don't have to wait for the chili wings to be on sale. You can still get them. Okay, so we got, no. So now we have discussion and consideration of tasers
No.
Sorry, municipal court services. No, we're done with that already. Discussion, consideration, and support of the Marsh Boardwalk repair. How much money did
Are they
want?
here?
She's not here.
So let's give them 10 grand.
No.
Move on to the next item.
No,
We need it repaired.
no.
She only wants 5.
How much did she donate when we asked them to help us with the Hartbrook Bridge? They didn't give us a penny,
Nothing.
and we asked them to donate toward it.
We, I think we found in the history, we did donate to the previous bridge, is that right, Sarah?
Yeah, it's been about 30 years since those planks went in, and it was 2,500 is what she quoted at the park board meeting earlier this month. So in, they did, say that per how much the Hartland community utilizes that space, that they thought that was a fair ask.
We also provide them with a dump truck at the bottom of the hill so that they took all the,
Yes, I think there was some labor support as well, yes. And it was recommended by the park board, right, to consider the,
it was recommended, but pending
Okay.
the budget issue here.
correct.
Yeah, and
yes.
again, if you guys decide to do a donation of this, it is a great asset to the village. Yeah, I'm as frustrated as you. We paid for that bridge by ourselves, and we give a phone call to them, and they supposedly have money, and they never called us back. So,
Even the path that goes between Palmer's and the
Yeah.
dog store, are they helping pay any of the plowing there?
no, that is paid for by Palmer's.
I know
Silverleaf,
that. I think, oh,
Well, I don't think 5,000 is going, it's the point. I mean, $5,000 isn't going to break us, but
no,
I'm
but it's
just
the
saying.
point. If we're gonna work together and help each other, then we need to do that.
The marsh is in pretty bad disarray, right? This is like a.
And that's what I was kind of getting to. It is an asset for the village. No one's walking on that thing and thinking, wow, the Ice Age Trail Alliance, man, they really suck. They're walking through Hartland and they're thinking of that. And that's where I'm coming from. And I think that, yeah, I mean, I spend my time, you know this, up here hammering on stuff that I just don't like. But we are a taxing entity where they are nothing but, I don't know, maybe they do get money from the state of Wisconsin, but they're not getting, it's not like they're getting money from us every single year. And when people do walk on that boardwalk, all they see is Hartland. So it's an area of Hartland that's in a marsh that people see as Hartland not taken care of. So I don't know if they'll come to us or not. So that's the only reason that I did come out right away saying, hey, let's get it done. I talked with Tim some, and I won't say it publicly, but yeah, I will, because I'm this deep in now. I walked on some of the boardwalk in between Cottonwood and Maple, and I'm like, oh man, why are they redoing this? It looks so nice. It's a really nice boardwalk. And Tim's like, that's the little one. You got to go to the next one. It's all tore up. And so looking at the pictures, I mean, obviously I can see, but it is a reflection of us, and the Ice Age Trail does go right through here. I mean, like when we talk about what goes through Palmer's, you know, we almost moved that trail to actually go kind of through by BMO Harris. There was a time where Mike Myers wanted to because he didn't want people walking by the dumpsters and stuff, which was a good idea, but I don't know. It's just my 2 cents. I think it's Hartland's the one that gets represented down there, and I don't think anybody walks and thinks, oh, the Ice Age Trail Alliance. What are they doing? Why aren't they raising that money? I think it's just a reflection of the community, and I do think it's an asset.
If you guys do approve or request this, I would just ask that you clarify the money comes from capital projects or corporate reserve. And the dollar amount, and then we would ask for an invoice from them.
It's fine, an invoice.
That's what they asked for. It can be more, it can be less. Just have them invoice us asking for that money, so that I have an audit record of it.
I'll make a motion to approve $5,000 as long as it comes from corporate reserves and.
Or capital.
Or capital projects.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve $5,000 to go towards repair of the Ice Age Trail Boardwalk, and it must come from corporate reserve or capital projects, and they need to request it so that there's an invoice trail.
Yep.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
okay?
That motion is carried. Now we have discussion and consideration of the Village of Hartland. I just read that one.
9.
We have discussion and consideration of taser quotes by Axon Enterprise, Inc. I think we went over this, but go ahead, Chief.
Yeah, so thank you. Just to refresh your memory, we discussed this at the budget meeting where we had some of our taser units having that critical malfunction, that critical fault error. Again, they start off as temporary, and we're able to hook them up to our software and get them back to normal, but then after a little bit, they just are permanently at this critical fault there. So we have a total of 18 officers. We have 19 of these taser units. They're called the X26Ps, so 19 total units. Out of those units, 4 of them are permanent air status. So we always had that spare taser. So 4 right now are permanent air status. These things are just coming up. We're not able to clear the air. And we have a couple more, 2 to 3 more, that are starting to drift and come up with this where we can sync it back. But if the other 4 have taught us anything, that's just buying us maybe a couple weeks, and we're going to be in the permanent air status with those because it happens fast. Again, these tasers were bought in 2016, so got about 8 years of useful life out of them. They are electronic components. Tasers recommended life cycle on all their stuff, which is a great business model for them, is 5 years. That's what they kind of will stand behind. So they went away from the old plan of, hey, I can just buy a taser. They do it as a bundle now. So what they do is they sell you the taser unit, and it comes with the training cartridges, the cartridges that you need if you were to deploy one, battery packs, training targets, certification training, all of that type of stuff gets bundled into that pricing. So basically, when I brought this forward, my recommendation, and this was just because this started happening to us and we had to try to pivot, come up with a plan. This is not something we utilize. If we use it a handful of times a year for use of force, that's probably on the higher side for us, but it's also one of those less lethal tools that if you don't have available to you as an officer in this day and age, you're definitely going to get some questions as to why that tool is not available to you. And then obviously you can escalate then from there, and then you'll get those type of questions. So to kind of come up with that plan, that's where I brought you, let's try to do 12. That gets me all my patrol officers. And then we'll just basically run these X26Ps, the remaining ones that we get, that those officers would no longer use. The people that weren't upgrading, we'd run them into the ground. That could be a couple weeks from now for all of them, or it could be 2 years from now. I don't know. They just start drifting, and then we start losing them. And again, we get these permanent errors. And then at that budget meeting, if you recall, you said, why not just get this one and done and make it happen? So I got a new quote for that 18. They don't give breaks per unit, basically. The cost is the same if you have 12 or 18. It just went up for those extra 6 units that are coming in. And then what they do for that total amount is they break that into a 5-year plan. They just break it up equally, and you pay it back equally over those 5 years. Now, at the end of that 5 years, I did confirm with our taser rep. I said, I can't see these things not being good anymore. And maybe they aren't. Maybe this critical fault error happens to them. I don't know how Axon does their things, but we got 8 years out of our last ones. They will allow us to a la carte purchase the cartridges and battery packs as long as they continue to support the product and they continue to work. So I was hopeful that I can maybe get an extra 3 years where I'm just a la carte through my budget purchasing the battery packs, taser cartridges to do the appropriate training. And then obviously if we use one in the field, we got to replace that, those kind of things. So the increase from that 12 quantity quote is the 18 quantity quote is $87,000, $739.20. Again, that would get broken into 5 equal payments, and then we would pay that year by year by year. Our plan was, due to our interest income coming back better than it has for the last however many years, we could use some of that income then to pay that plan down so it wouldn't be effectively, because we didn't have it built into the budget. That was going to be our short-term plan, to just get something back out on the street where we don't have these aired out machines out on the road.
If you're still using these in 2029, do we still owe $17,547.84, or that's?
Nope, once you hit the 5 years, they're paid for, so then we just use them until we can't anymore. Now, you guys know where this is membership based. They're looking like a computer system. They stop supporting these things after so long. You can't get parts, you can't get service. If I were to send in these X26Ps with these critical errors, Taser, actually, because of liability, won't even send them back to me. They just keep them. I don't know if that's called theft in my world, but that's what they do.
How about the tasers that are currently working?
Correct.
Since we're replacing those, is there any value to those?
So there is. It's not as good as you would hope it to be. So Taser will buy them back at $100 a piece. So that right now, and that's not including, Taser will buy all of them, even the ones that are aired out, $100 a piece. So that would be $1,900. There's a company that refurbishes tasers. They're called Accredited Security. They bought, when we went to the X26Ps, they bought some of our old tasers back then. They basically do $200 a taser, and it has to have a holster that goes with it, which we would be able to provide. And then they buy every battery pack and cartridge that we have extra for $10 per battery pack and $5 for cartridge. Taser just says, we'll just buy the units. We don't buy back your other stuff. That's all kind of built in. So we could sell those, but they will not buy the ones with the critical fault errors on them. They don't
That's
want
the ones
those.
that pay 200.
So, yeah.
But the ones that pay 100 buy them all back?
It's the company that bakes them. They're just basically, it's a trade-in deal.
That's
for us.
such a scam. They say they don't support, they're supporting them, and you know where they're gonna sell them? Guam. They're gonna be at some police department in Guam or somewhere else. That's what's happening, or they would be buying them back, I guarantee it.
It's possible. So
They
then,
support them as long as it's
as
done in the
we
United
sit
States.
right now, we could sell the 15
That's exactly
for the
what they're
$200.
Yeah.
And then
So we get
get
100 back to the other one.
But again,
Yeah.
it's compared to the cost of the new ones, we're talking pennies
Peanuts.
on a dollar
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Well, so the total price is the 87,000 and change, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's if we go to the 18. So
Right.
you know, I had 19 before we had that spare. So if it went down, while you're under this 5-year program, if we have a taser go down, they send us a new one right away, and we send in the one.
What's the
that's got
turnaround
issue.
time to get the
They
replacement?
can get them to us like next day.
Oh, okay.
They get them quick.
Because I didn't know, then would it be
Yep.
advantageous to keep one of the old good ones as the 19th or not?
I'd probably not, because then I'd have to train it.
Oh, okay.
And I'd like them to just be focused
Okay.
on one system
Alright.
under stress. I don't want them trying to figure out which one they have.
This 87 total was 17,000 a year is to replace all.
18.
All 18. So
Okay.
every officer
That's,
would
I
have
was
a
just,
new
because it's gonna be
taser.
a bunch more in.
We
3
wouldn't
years.
do the run it into the ground and guess when they're gonna
Right.
not be
And-
good. My plan was, just because this started cropping up, was like, how do I fix the emergency need now? And I was trying to do it as frugally and as cost effective as possible.
And I appreciate, because you're very frugal, and I love that, but.
This is more cost effective in the long
well,
run.
It's more cost effective, but from a safety standpoint, I'd hate to have, and maybe I'm wrong, but an officer need to use when it doesn't work, or more importantly, have, what you were saying, have an error, have something happen to somebody, and we'd be spending a lot more money in lawsuits because that they would use that error against us.
They sure
So-
would, guaranteed.
Yeah, so
Guaranteed.
with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve the taser quotes by Axon Enterprise Incorporated for $87,739.20 for a replacement of all 18 tasers.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the replacement of the tasers for 87,739.20. That's broken up over 5 years at 17,547.84 per year for all 18 tasers. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is passed. Now we got discussion and consideration on the uniform contract for the Department of Public Works.
Yeah, the DPW uniform contract is up for renewal this October. I've reached out to 3 different contractors, got some quotes back from them. The apparent low bidder was AbsorbTech, the company that we currently using now, for a total of $7,853.13 per year. This number can fluctuate and change based off of garment wear and tear, if there's actually any damages or anything done. Term is 3 years for this contract, with 3 to 4% annual increase potentially each year. So the other company that I got numbers from offered programs or options that were kind of a requirement to take, and those would take in the damages and the losses and stuff like that, that I said that number might fluctuate a little bit with. But last year, we only spent $382 for damages. So the price difference there between the two companies doesn't even come close. when we're looking at the cost of the uniforms. So with that, staff recommends awarding the uniform contract to ITU Absorb Tech for the sum of $7,858.13 with the potential for a 3 to 4% increase annually.
I'll make a motion that we approve the uniform contract as stated for $7,858.13.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the uniform contract for DPW.
Are you happy with your current provider? I thought somebody told me that you weren't happy with some of the.
Yep, we've
wasn't-
changed over the garments. It's not the exact same ones I had. Each
Okay.
of the companies had to come in and actually show us what the garments were. We've upgraded a little bit in there, but the price increase is not even there. I mean, in comparison to what we're paying for the next couple of years, we had some pants that were tearing and stuff like that. We got pants now with flex and venting in the shirts and stuff like that, so staff was happy with the new stuff. I just want to correct your motion. You said Cintas, and it's actually for IT Absorb Tech.
Sorry, I didn't even say the name of a company. I just said I approved it as stated.
Oh,
So,
I thought, okay,
yeah, that's
sorry.
fine. I2 Absorb Tech.
Did I call the question? Or no, we were discussing.
You haven't, but. now
All
you
in
can.
favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have a discussion and consideration of the 2024 tree planting contract. Is there a lot changing with this one? I think it is.
So the village replaces trees every year. Yeah, this year I reached out to several different companies. Once again, we got the same qualified bidder, Dan Larson Landscaping as the lowest bidder. He had a total proposal of $15,449. Staff recommends awarding the 2024 street planning contract to Dan Larson Landscaping, Inc. for the sum of $15,449.
Have we used them before?
Yep, they were the company that we used last year. They were a lot lower than companies we've used in the past.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2024 tree planting contract to Dan Larson.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the 2024 tree planting contract to Dan Larson. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. Announcements?
So today, Ryan, Pete, Gesh from R&M, and myself met with AT&T to talk about burying overhead cables on Cottonwood Avenue. So we're starting in conversations about getting that process done and what that's going to take and entail. Quick Trip is now open, but across the street at the quarry, there's a lot of work being done. If you haven't been up there and take a look, a lot of trees are coming down, and the approach for the new development has been open, so they're able to bring equipment through there instead of using the old ramp that they had previously had for that pit. Village staff has recently put up new pedestrian crosswalk signs on the new crosswalk at Maple and Lindenwood. We're still waiting on the paint to actually go across Maple, but those signs are up, and we're talking with Stark as far as scheduling of the painting for those. So,
Just real quick comment with the telephone and cable lines. We'll probably postpone the paving at Cottonwood next year. We're gonna talk about that because we really wanna get that buried. We're gonna look up grants. We're gonna do everything we can to figure a way to get those power lines under.
That is awesome.
If we can get it from millions to less than that, we're trying.
Okay.
We're gonna give it a shot.
Awesome. Thank you. That's fantastic. Good job.
So we are interviewing for the full-time rec coordinator position. We did close the position. We have 6 applicants. Got through the first round of interviews and have second interviews coming up this week. So we're excited to hopefully have a new candidate for that position, hopefully soon. Also wanted to mention the Pumpkin Party in the Park, which is a library fundraising event for the children's area renovation. That's coming up on October 19th in Nixon Park. Still looking for sponsorships for that event. It's going to
Call
be...
the Ice Age Trail.
Okay. Sponsor opportunities, so there's a bunch of information on that. Also, the Hartland Lakeside Education Fund is doing a trunk or treat in the library parking lot that afternoon. And they're still looking for some trunk participants. So details on that at the library. And that is all I have.
All right, we had our practice and burn down this weekend over at the Klink property on 308 North Avenue. It went very well. We didn't get near the burn sets that we had planned, but smaller house and balloon construction. So we got our 6 burn sets in. Every crew that was there got at least 1 round plus a few other extras. And it started crawling up the walls to the 2nd story at about 10:30, and we decided that we weren't sending any more people inside, just too dangerous, and we just let it go at that point. So it was down in 1 hour and 20 minutes into the basement. So one complaint that I heard, he called after we were done cleaning up, wanted us to come back and put more water on the fire, and I said there was no fire left, it was just smoldering. And he was concerned that the old age home was getting smoke in there, so I went over and talked to both him and the old age home, and they had 0 problems and no smoke in the buildings at all, so they were fine with that. Other than that, we got 6 burn sets, so like I said, lot of great practice, a lot of great good jobs on everybody. Village Manager Bailey got to go in and experience what President Fanistil and a couple other board members had at one time, so.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yes. So as far as the building stuff goes, I know I didn't say too much during it, but everything that they have put in place for the fire department would take care of us for the future. Additional staff, additional officers, all that kind of stuff. That's all in there so that we, unless we have some major expansion of the village north or south, then at that point we would probably be talking about a satellite station, but this will cover us for years to come. You know, like he said, we're pretty much built out on that site as far as the fire department goes, and that would last us for quite a while. So we're good on that. October 12th is the pancake breakfast. Put it on your calendars, 7 to 10, or 7 to noon, I'm sorry. Possibility of flight coming. I'm not putting any hope in that anymore after getting burned by them 3 times. So, and then one of our former members that had passed away, his family donated a whole bunch of money for us to get a new to build our own pancake maker. We've been borrowing these for all the years that we've been doing it. So we have all the metal right now. I'm meeting with a guy tomorrow that is possibly going to build it for us and put it all together. So it won't be ready by the 12th, but we will have it for sometime next year. So
I just want to say thank you for letting me go in. That was probably one of the coolest things I got to do. And Pete Walker just showing 1400 degrees in the flames, and I just made sure I could see the exit. I don't know.
Yup.
That was scary.
Pretty cool.
On the police department side, we have a couple interviews coming up ourselves. We have interviews tomorrow for the 2 part-time administrative assistant applications we received. We're hopeful to get more than that, but we came away with 2 this time around. And then our deputy chief position closed at 4:30 this afternoon. And we have 4 external candidates that put in an application and 1 internal candidate that met the qualifications for the position. We'll be moving forward with that with an outside interview panel of some law enforcement leaders throughout the county on October 2nd. And then anyone moving on from that interview will interview with our PFC on October 8th. And I'll be part of that interview as well to watch those occur. Couple good things happening. Drone grants. We got our drone paid for completely. We're going to be purchasing that later in November. Trying to get through my accreditation without adding stuff in the last second for accreditors to push through all those things and try to find proofs for me when I just got the thing. So we're going to wait for that just to keep it clean. But we ended up doing $7,500 through the CP Rail grant. We did $5,000 from the Petcoff Foundation. And then tomorrow we'll be out at the Quick Trip grand opening, and they're going to provide us with a $1,000 donation there as well. So that will cover the entire cost of that drone unit. If you haven't seen, our squad graphics are in. So the new squad cars, if you have not seen them, when you leave, they're parked right down in front of the hill there. Take a look. They're pretty cool to see. A little different than night and daytime look, but I think it really cleans them up and brings them a couple decades newer. We're still just waiting on some new squad equipment because those are 2025s. They made a little bit of changes on those. And we're waiting for our equipment provider to provide us with that updated equipment to fit in the squads. So we're in a little bit of a holding process while that gets done. And then finally, we did it. Stop signs on County Highway K, E, and E. I never thought it would happen in my career, but we actually got something there. County was able to get them in. It took a little bit, and they only did one of them. We were able to get both of them. So if you haven't been through that part of town, the compromise that we worked on for over 5 years was they added those overhead stop signs. It was supposed to be just an overhead stop sign to really show traffic on County Highway KE that there's stop signs there, because we had people going through that said they never even saw those stop signs because of the nature of that intersection. Well, those accidents, we got lucky. I don't know how on some of them. They should have probably been fatal accidents. We're talking about landscaping trucks at 40, 45 miles an hour crushing through cars, and just where they hit, we were lucky no one died. So we were glad to have those. After all the arguing on flashing lights, they had put flashing lights in. They weren't supposed to, but they did. So God bless them. We made it happen.
That's cool. Awesome. That's cool.
North Shore Maple. Maple Avenue, K. East Maple.
North Shore, yeah.
And that's all I got.
Rick?
Good.
Yeah? Jonte, Tom? Go ahead.
Just really, the quarry, if you get a chance, they're starting to dig it out. They'll be blasting some stuff this week. If you go up there, they already have their main road kind of in, and every tree down, it's going quick.
So the grand opening for Quick Trip has been said a couple times tonight, is tomorrow. 10
a.m. ribbon cutting, is that right?
Yeah, and I guess it goes from 9 to 11, but 10 a.m. ribbon cutting. Speaking of the Ice Age Trail, not that I'm trying to, I happen to see this on Facebook, so I figure I might as well say something, but the Ice Age Trail's got that mammoth challenge going on where you walk like three different segments or something. You go online to Ice Age Trail, and you can sign up for this mammoth challenge. You go like whatever it is, like 25 miles or 30 miles in a month, and you got to go to 3 different segments, and then they give you a patch and stuff like that. So thought that was kind of cool. Then yeah, I know, right? I know. So, Chief, I did want to tell you, if you want to make each tase cost less, you said you don't use it if you just tase more people, then it's less money per tase, right?
Any village board member volunteers?
Jeff said he'd volunteer.
What do we got on the election?
We'll donate money if you tase them.
Are ballots are being mailed out now?
I think we all know.
The initial mailing for ballots went out on Thursday, and we have approximately 700 out now.
Cool, thank you. Hit it.
Motion that we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn this meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This meeting's adjourned.